Back again with another original series story told, and in this video, I am going to be covering Season 2 of the hit bank robbery Netflix series Money Heist, or also known as La Casa de Papel. I have done Season 1 in a previous video, and Season 1 and 2 are directly linked with each other, so if you haven't checked out Season 1, I will put the link to that video in the description below, and you should check that one out before watching this video as it is a continuation of the same heist. Seasons 1 and 2 are the same heist, and then Season 3 and 4 are another heist the gang does. If you just want to recap a single episode of the season, I will also put those timestamps in the description below as well, but since it is a pretty lengthy season, I will get right to it. Episode 1. Breaking Point. To kick off Season 2, we go right back to the Toledo house where Salva has driven Raquel to so she could scope for evidence. The Toledo house is where the gang planned the heists for months, and he is obviously nervous they might find something. He did prepare for it though, as he placed DNA samples of Rio and Tokyo along with DNA samples of random people that weren't even a part of the heist to throw the cops' senses off. He only used Rio and Tokyo because their identities have already been made public from Season 1. The professor is in a hurry to get back to the bunker because the gang inside the bank is waiting for his call, and if he doesn't call them within 24 hours, they will activate their last-ditch plan. But they don't want to do that for obvious reasons, as the bank heist would be a failure. Inside the bank, a civil war has been started between the gang, as half of them want to follow Berlin and the other half are backing Tokyo. Berlin wants to be patient and wait for the professor's call, but Tokyo has lost hope and she wants to abandon the heist along with Denver and Rio. Speaking of Denver, he has told Nairobi and Moscow that he is in love with Monica, and they both tell him that is a bad idea and to not get attached. His father especially. It does make him rethink his relationship with Monica though. Raquel's ex-husband, Alberto, is called to the crime scene as he is a forensic analyst, and after he scopes the place out, he offers to give the professor a ride back to the city so Raquel can stay. But on the car ride back, the professor antagonizes him for abusing Raquel and his daughter, and when he pulls over, they get in a fight, and because of this, the professor is then arrested for assaulting an officer. The gang inside see on the TV that he has been arrested, and they think the plan is cooked, and they need to get out while they can. Tokyo is ready to go through with Plan Chernobyl, but Berlin says he has faith in the professor to take care of them, and it hasn't been 24 hours yet. Helsinki, Moscow, and Nairobi back the professor as well. The episode ends with Tokyo, Rio, and Denver organizing a coup and tying up Berlin. Episode 2. Civil War. Angel is still dealing with the car accident he had, and he is still in a coma in the hospital, and Raquel is sure that whoever the professor is tampered with his brakes to cause the accident because of the information Angel knew. Back in the bank, Berlin is still tied up, and Tokyo is forcing him to tell her how to go through with Plan Chernobyl, as Berlin originally came up with it in case of a dire emergency, but he doesn't tell her how to execute it because he still has faith in his brother. Tokyo even starts playing Russian roulette with him, but luckily, he survives the game. Nairobi then scolds Tokyo for destroying the group from the inside, and then Tokyo yells at Nairobi that her plan is dumb and Nairobi's son doesn't care about his mom and never will. Remember, Nairobi is doing this to get money, get her son out of foster care, and leave the country. Nairobi wants to shoot her, but Moscow talks her out of it. Helsinki is still grieving the loss of Oslo, and he remembers that it was Tokyo's fault in the first place the whole shootout happened, and he then captures and ties up Tokyo as she did Berlin. They then also free Berlin, who decides to get rid of Tokyo from the mission because she is jeopardizing the whole heist. He ties her up a gurney and rolls her out of the front of the bank to be placed under arrest by the police. When the police approach her, she breaks free and runs away, but doesn't get very far and is captured by the Spanish intelligence. Rio is watching this all happen, and he is extremely sad she is caught. Tokyo then tries buying time for everyone inside by requesting medical attention. Tokyo then remembers that the professor told her no matter what, he will never fail anyone in the gang, so she is starting to have faith in him again, and he will free her. She couldn't have had faith in him 2 hours earlier? The professor is still being detained, and he sees on the news Tokyo has been captured. Back inside, Rio is going crazy and wants to blow the whole heist up, but then Berlin injects him with a tranquilizer. The episode closes with Tokyo being interrogated by the Spanish intelligence. Episode 3. High Treason. This episode opens up with a flashback showing Rio helping the professor set up the voice modulator he uses and helps him buy everything off the dark web that they will need for the heist. Back in the present, Salva uses his one phone call to call Raquel and tell her he has been arrested for assaulting her ex-husband, and Raquel tells him she will be there soon to clear everything up. Inside the bank, tensions are still high because Nairobi didn't agree with Berlin's plan to just hand over Tokyo to the police so easily, and there are other ways they could have tackled the situation. But Berlin says he is in charge now with the Professor MIA and they are going to do things his way. In the jail, Salva asks to use the restroom and when inside, he abuses himself so he can use the defense that Alberto attacked him first, and he was just using self-defense. When Raquel arrives, she sees the bruises and warns this specific police station to let Salva go or he will file a suit against them and then Salva is freed. Back in the bank, Arturo and a few of the other hostages are trying to plan another escape and Allison wants to fake an injury for the medics to come in and then she sprint outside. Rio yells to the hostages their whole plan and how they all planning on using the fourth tunnel no one knows about, and this angers Berlin and Helsinki, so they once again remove him from the hall. Rio is still pissed that Tokyo is gone and he is being tied up. Berlin is to the point that he wants to shoot Rio, but Nairobi and Denver talk him out of it. Tokyo is still being interrogated by the police and they tell her if she cooperates, she and Rio can go free, but she knows they are just saying a bunch of lies. She does blast out Sergio's name, which is the professor's real name for some odd reason. She can't decide if she is on his side or against him. Pick a lane, sweetheart. The professor finally gets a hold of Berlin, but he is super upset by what happened with Rio and Tokyo, and now he has to find a way to free Tokyo. While they are talking, Nairobi then knocks Berlin out from behind and tells the camera and the professor that she is now in charge. Episode 4. Win over the public. To kick this episode off, Helsinki has locked Rio in the same room as the hostages upstairs that includes Arturo and Allison. Rio is pretty much a hostage now, and he tells Arturo that he should switch his fake weapon with one of the real weapons and use that to escape, and Arturo thinks it is a brilliant idea. You mean to tell me none of them thought of this before Rio said anything? Nairobi tells Berlin that she will let him free if he promises to play nice, and she is still going to be in charge of the heist from the inside, and he obliges. He then tells everyone what Plan Chernobyl is, and it's basically dropping all the money they have printed from the top of the bank right outside, and cause a huge commotion and then walk out when it's raining money. But now since the professor is back, they don't need to execute this plan at this point. When they aren't paying attention, Arturo gets one of the fake guns in his possession and gives it to Monica, and he wants Monica to switch it with Denver's whenever he is giving her medical treatment. Monica doesn't know what to do as she is in the middle of her two men. Back in the negotiation truck, the professor tells Raquel he will release 11 hostages if they send in a news team to cover a live news segment. Berlin is then tasked as the person who will be interviewed by the news anchor. Monica switches the fake gun with the real one when Denver isn't paying attention. Raquel thinks the news thing is them just trying to stall time, and she wants to use Angel's hospital visit to their advantage and say he has woken up from his coma. She thinks if they release this news, the professor will head to the hospital to kill Angel before he can expose who the professor really is. They will then capture him when he enters Angel's room. Meanwhile, a TV crew does enter the Royal Mint and they interview Berlin. Berlin shows the world that the hostages are safe, and he also says they are about to give up and are defeated. He is trying to win sympathy from the general public. He also tells the anchor that the police made up the trafficking allegations to make them look worse, and he implores anyone to actually look into the lies. A little later, the police then release the news about Angel waking up, and when the professor calls Berlin, Berlin tells him it's 99% a trap, but there's always the 1% it's not, so he will need to be careful. Episode 5. Arturo's escape plan. Nairobi tells the hostages that are there she is offering €1 million to anyone that helps them dig their tunnel, and some of them actually agree to it. She will send them each $1 million 6 months after the heist secretly. Arturo thinks they are just lying to get more help. At the hospital, the professor has arrived, but so have 40 clowns. He planned this so he could disguise himself as a clown and check Angel, and when he sees the agents everywhere, he knows it was a trap and he gets out of there. Dude is a genius. The local news then report to the public that Berlin has never been attached to any trafficking or selling humans, so this just makes the police look even worse and gives the robbers more public sympathy. Arturo then starts his plan and holds the real gun up to Denver, and he orders Denver to let him out of the bank. While this is happening, in another room, Berlin told Rio that the professor is about to rescue Tokyo from custody, and this makes Rio happy, and he is now on Team Robbers now, but he tells Berlin Arturo is planning an escape. Arturo is about to get out until the other robbers come down and confront him. He threatens to shoot Denver, but then Monica knocks him out from behind. Raquel meets Salva out for lunch that day, and she notices a strand of orange hair stuck to him, and she finally comes to the realization Salva is the professor. Raquel then confronts Salva and puts him under arrest and demands him to take her to his hideout. Back in the bank, the robbers have tied a bunch of dynamite to Arturo so that way he won't be trying anything slick anymore. Monica is then wondering if she did the wrong thing, and she might have just been an accomplice to the heist. Denver tells her to go all in and join them going forward, and he will nickname her Stockholm and be the father to her child. The episode ends with Raquel and Salva driving to the hideout. Episode 6. Saving Tokyo. The episode opens with Raquel tying up the professor at the hideout, and she is demanding him to tell her everything about the heist and how they plan on executing their escape. The professor tells her his real name and all of the truth, but also tells her he loves her and this wasn't part of her plan. Upon hearing this, she just wants to kill him and is so mad that she used him for his heist. Raquel then leaves the hideout back to the bank while Professor stays there hanging. Berlin tells Rio that they have hired a team of brilliant criminals to safely rescue Tokyo, and he just asks Rio to be patient. We then jump to the car that is transporting Tokyo, and of course force Serbian stop the van and cause mayhem and free Tokyo from police custody. Back in the bank, Denver is trying so hard to convince Monica to run off with him, and he even tells her he will create a fake passport for her. Moscow watches on and is not a fan of how bad Denver is simping for Monica. Moscow tries telling him that she isn't a girl he should be with and they come from two separate worlds, but Denver doesn't want to listen. The Serbs take Tokyo to a lot where she drives off on a police motorcycle. The first place Tokyo goes is to the hangar to meet with Professor, but when she arrives, she sees Raquel there with a black briefcase, so she doesn't go in. The black briefcase that Raquel brought contained a lie detector test that she uses on the professor to see what he is telling the truth about and what he is lying about. He tells her he didn't cause Angel's accident, and he is doing the heist in memory of his father. He also tells her he really is in love with her, and all prove to be the truth. When she unties him and tells him to go with her, he breaks free and puts her to sleep. Tokyo has nowhere else to go because the exits to the city have been blocked off, so she takes her motorcycle and flies back into the Royal Mint with bullets spraying all around her. Plot armor strong in this scene. When she safely gets inside, everyone sees that Moscow had been hit by a bullet and he is badly injured while lying in Denver's arms bleeding out. Tokyo feels extremely bad that she caused it. Episode 7. A Confession. Moscow caught 3 bullets right to the stomach and everyone is trying to help him and keep the blood loss at a minimum, but it is not working very well. The professor tries reasoning with Raquel and tells him he is not out to hurt anyone, but he has a job to finish. He walks off and she has the opportunity to shoot him, but can't bring herself to do it, and he drives off. Berlin calls the interrogation truck and say they need medical help right away, but the colonel says he is done meeting their every need and the heist just needs to be over. He will let Moscow bleed out. Then the colonel also notices footage of Raquel kissing the professor, and Angel has finally woken up and told them Sergio was the professor, so now they believe Raquel is in on the heist. The professor has made his way back to the hangar where he warns Berlin and the others to speed up the heist because his identity has been exposed, and he won't be able to hide around for much longer. They need to get out of the tunnel in 10 hours, or fewer if they want to be successful. When Raquel gets back to the truck, they all confront her and tell her she is sleeping with the enemy, but she explains she didn't even know Sergio until a week ago and she had no idea he was the mastermind of the heist. Denver has gone to furiously digging the tunnel because he doesn't want his father to die in the bank, but his father doesn't want to be handed over to the police either. That means the escape is the only way out, but who knows how much longer Moscow has. When the professor calls the negotiation truck, the colonel tells him they know who he is and Raquel is no longer on the case and he should just give up before any more lives are lost, but the professor obviously doesn't agree. Raquel is pissed that she was removed from the case and she leaves. Episode 8. Raquel's Investigation. Raquel has turned to do her own investigation, and she wants to prove that she wasn't against the police, and she had no idea that he was the professor. She thinks the only way she can prove her innocence is to watch him and turn him in. Moscow is slowly dying and Tokyo is doing everything she can to keep him alive while the men are down trying their best to finish the tunnel digging. As Rio and Denver are digging on one side, the professor and the Serbs are digging on the other side, and they finally hear each other, so they know they are close. After reaching each other, Monica tells Denver to go upstairs and be with his father because she doesn't think he has much longer to live. Denver goes up to tell his father how much he loves him, and they say their farewells. Moscow tells Denver he finally approves of Monica and to take good care of her and the baby. Denver thinks he can still save Moscow through the tunnel, but then Moscow dies in his arms, and everyone is saddened as he was loved by all. The colonel issues an arrest warrant for Raquel when he learns that she has been going around town asking for security footage, and he thinks she is trying to delete everything when in reality, she is investigating. Meanwhile, down in the tunnels, the professor has finally been reunited with everyone and he shares a long, affectionate hug with Denver, who just lost his father, and he introduces Monica as Stockholm, and she is part of the gang now. Nairobi then shows the professor every single bill that they have printed, and it totals to 2.4 billion euros, which is more than he expected, and he is ecstatic. The colonel has ordered for the army to enter the bank and end this madness once and for all. The professor heads back to the warehouse while the others plan on moving the money through the tunnels, and when he gets back to the warehouse, Raquel is there waiting and she puts a gun to his head. She thinks she has the upper hand until the Serbs show up and outnumber her 4-1. Back in the bank, they start moving the money through the tunnel into dump trucks there waiting, and boy is it a lot of money, but they also have the police that are about to invade the tunnels. Back at the warehouse, the professor now has Raquel tied up and he wants her to place nice, but she bites him. The professor then tells her why he is doing the heist, and he is sick and tired of the government and banks stealing money from the public to give to the rich, and he wanted to balance it the other way a little bit. Raquel then receives a call from Angel, and the professor lets her talk to him, and she wants to go see him. He doesn't know if he can trust her, but then she kisses him and says she is on his side now as she agrees with the rich stealing from the poor. He then allows her to leave. Episode 9. 984 million euros. Season finale. The professor gets a hold of Berlin, and he tells them they all have to get out of there immediately as the bank is about to be completely evaded by the army. When Raquel shows up to talk to Angel, she apologizes for how she treated him earlier in the season and how he was right the whole time about Sergio being the enemy. Then the police show up and arrest her at the orders of the colonel because he issued an arrest warrant for her. Back at the bank, the police have entered and they have been detonating explosions for quicker ways to get to the robbers, and Tokyo and Rio are like Bonnie and Clyde shooting at the army. But of course, they stay clear of any bullets because of, plot armor. Denver and Stockholm then show up as well to try and save their fellow criminals. Monica has gone full-out robber now. Good job, Denver. The colonel doesn't know the address to the professor's hideout as only Raquel and Angel know, but Angel doesn't want to give it the colonel because he now doesn't know who the good guys or the bad guys are. They have no proof that Raquel knew about the heist, but yet still issued an arrest warrant for her. Remember, Angel is still deeply in love with Raquel. The army breaks in and sees a bunch of hostages that are freed out the front of the bank. Not one hostage died in the heist, just 3 robbers. Berlin orders the remaining robbers that it is time to go and to head to their escape route, and he will go last. Nairobi yells at Berlin to come, but he tells her someone has to stay behind and hold off all the officers while they make their getaway. He then gets in a shootout with the police and eventually, he ends up being shot to death. The professor is at the end of the tunnel waiting for Berlin as he is his brother, but Nairobi sadly informs him Berlin stayed behind so they could get away, and the professor breaks down. He knows they need to go though, so they quickly drive off before being stopped. The police finally make it to the hangar, but when they get there, no one is to be seen and the robbers have already made off with the money and different disguises. We then jump a year later where Raquel receives some postcards from the professor, and it is a map to his location. She then goes to this tropical location and is met by the professor. They end up in paradise together. And that is the end of Season 2. I will do Season 3 in my next video, so I hope you can check that one out too and watch all of the series here on my channel, and I will probably do the series Berlin as well. But thanks for watching.